All right, welcome to Training Tuesday. We are so glad to have you with us. Today we're going to go over some updates and reminders. We're going to cover IPG, renewals, and ad hoc reporting. I'll tell you where you can find some additional training opportunities, and we'll end with our Tuesday takeaway. Updates and reminders. So please note that there will not be a sole source hearing the week of February 10th. You can find our full sole source hearing schedule in our calendar of events. We have had some dates change to Thursday dates, so please reference our currently posted sole source hearing schedule. CPO Notice 2025.05 was recently issued and requires agency heads to sign and return the agency consultation for supply contracts form to the SPO by January 31st. That's this coming Friday. Please note that if your agency provides a blanket approval, there is limited to no additional work required of that agency. The requesting agency, the UP team, and SPO will bear the responsibility of the new contract. CPO Notice 2025.04, the State of Illinois Diversity and Inclusion in Procurement Training was recently issued. The training is open now and must be completed by January 31st, 2025, again this Friday. This training contains 61 slides and will take about an hour to complete. Please reference CPO Notice 2025.04 for additional information on how to access the training on OneNet. If you have any questions about this notice, please direct them to your SPO. Please note that the CPO notice did state that an audit will occur after the hearing or after the training date ends this coming Friday. We're going to identify any bid by users that have not taken that training. The agencies will be alerted and will have 1 week from that alert to have those people take the training. If they have not, they will be deleted from bid buy. So please make sure your bid buy users and any other staff that are required to take this training have it taken by January 31st. Let's get into the Illinois Procurement Gateway, IPG. So the first step in utilizing IPG is having access. If you do not currently have access and require it for your job function, you may request access using this form. The form does provide the instructions on how to complete and submit the form. It's also important to bookmark the right IPG site. So if you are referring a vendor on how to register, you're going to send them to ipg.illinois.gov. However, as a state user, if you are logging in to check through financial disclosures submitted by a vendor, you as the state user are going to need to go to ipg.illinois.gov/internal. When you are using IPG to review a vendor's IPG registration, you will need to log in. Upon logging in, you will see the dashboard. Your main use of IPG is to search for a vendor and download their IPG registration in association with the procurement. In order to search for active registered vendors, you will select suppliers and then registrations from the menu. It will take you to a new screen showing you a database of all active registrations. Active registrations show only vendors that have a current active IPG registration. You have the option to search through registration history, which will show you expired registrations as well. The registration history will show all active, deactivated, and expired registrations. This may be of assistance if a vendor submitted IPG active registered vendor disclosures, but you are unable to find them in the active registration. You may want to review the registration history to see if they had an active registration on the bid due date and had maybe expired after the bid due date opening. On the right-hand side, we see how many results are included in our current search and other ways to customize your search. For instance, you can sort, filter and search, customize columns showing, and export results. The feature you are likely to use the most is the filter and search. Once you've selected Filter and Search, the options will appear on the right-hand side of the screen. You can search by vendor name, NIGP codes, status as an SBSP vendor, and much more. After you've entered your desired criteria, select Run. The page will refresh with the desired criteria applied. After the page refreshes, you will see your search criteria that has been applied directly above the listing of vendors that have met the criteria. Please note that this is only pulling active registrations since I am in the dataset. Once you have identified the vendor you want to look at, click on their hyperlinked name. Once you enter the vendor's registration, you can see the vendor's IPG number, when they were accepted, and when their registration expires. And additionally, you'll see if there are any flags associated with the vendor. Flags are notated with a response of yes or no. Yes responses are also color-coded with a red box. Please note that some flags are still informational, but any flag will trigger a yes response. On this summary screen, you are able to continuously scroll down through the vendor's entire registration. As I am scrolling through the registration, you'll see that each response has an outline of a flag next to it. If a vendor's response is marked with a flag, the flag will be a solid color. If you select a flag that is solid, a pop-up will appear on the right-hand side of the screen that provides the details related to that flag. Back at the top of the vendor's registration, you are able to select Export to PDF. This will create a single zip file which contains the vendor's IPG registration and all attached documents. Due to this registration not having any attachments, we only see the single PDF which contains the active registration. We have noted that you may see flags as a reviewer. Please note that only state users are able to see these flags and the vendors do not. The flags may be added to vendors registration by our IPG team because their DHR registration will expire within the year, a vendor has marked yes to a potential conflict, their registration name on SOS or BOE doesn't easily locate them due to the spelling differences, or there may be other flags that help to provide additional information. You will need to review all of the flags to see how it affects your procurement. Please note that if a vendor has any changes, this includes their name, ownership structure, or their fee, while their registration is active, they will be required to submit a new registration. The IPG team does not make changes to the flags after the registration has been accepted. Since we are 5 months from the fiscal year end, we are going to do a refresher on renewals in case your agency has any that must be completed prior to the end of the fiscal year. Before we can even talk about renewals, we have to start with when you issue an IFB or RFP. Agencies must follow CPO Notice 2022.08 by obtaining pricing and bid buy. Agencies must include renewal options in the solicitation and in pricing. On the left is an example of how to enter initial term and renewal line items into Bid Buy Items tab. You should clearly define the associated term with each line description. Now that we've talked about having to include the renewal options and pricing in the original solicitation, we can dive into what happens when it's time to exercise a renewal option. As we just discussed, renewals have to be identified in the initial solicitation. Additionally, they must be included in the notice of award and the resulting contract. If the renewal options were not represented in the executed contract, the agency does not have contractual renewal options. 30 ILCS 575-8ID requires agencies to review renewals at least 6 months prior to renewal. This act is addressing review of the BEP goal. If no goal, this act requires review for possible addition of a goal. If there was a goal, the agency will need to review if the goal was met during the current contract term. If there was a goal and it was not met, there were efforts made by the vendor during the term of the contract to meet it, the agency may present the good faith effort contract renewal waiver and concurrence form as referenced in CPO Notice 2022.02. Agencies will need to utilize the most recent job aid when submitting in bid buy. It is exceptionally important to assure that your SPO approval, that you have SPO approval to execute the renewal amendment, and that the renewal is executed prior to the end of the current term. If this does not occur, then the renewal can't be processed and can't proceed, and the agency will have to utilize a different procurement method to obtain needed supplies or services. This is another reason to assure that renewals are completed well in advance of the current contract term end date. Let's look at some of these reminders a little bit further. So agencies are required to review renewals at least 6 months prior to the renewal. Please note, we're already 5 months away from the fiscal year end. So any renewals you have tied to fiscal year, we're already a month behind if you haven't started on them. If there was a goal and it was not met, but there were efforts made by the vendor during the term of the contract to meet it, the agency may present the good faith effort contract renewal waiver and concurrence form as referenced in CPO Notice 2022.02. The renewal notice of award must be published for 14 days, but does not have a protest period. Please work closely with your SPO. In Section 1 of this form, you will need to fill out the project title and prime vendor's name. In Section 2 of this form, the first 3 questions under Section 2 require the agency to specify current term notice of award amount, the current term contract actual spend, and the proposed renewals notice of award amount. It then has the agency specify the current term BEP goal, the BEP goal actually achieved in the current term, and the proposed renewal BEP goal. You will then need to list out the BEP subcontractors on the U plan, which will include the BEP subcontractor name, goal percentage, achieved goal percentage, and the achieved goal value. You can add additional rows simply by selecting Add Row below the table. This will allow you to provide all BEP subcontractors that were part of the U plan. In Section 3, you'll provide a brief description of the current term contract supplies or services. Section 4 requires the agency to list actions that the vendor took during the current term to meet the current term's BEP goal percentage. This response should include what the vendor actually did and not what that was intended to occur. The second question in Section 4 requires the agency to detail what the impact to the state will be if the renewal is not approved. Section 5, if the vendor's actions alone do not fully explain the vendor's good faith effort, provide additional information explaining why the contract's current term BEP goal percentage was not achieved. In Section 6, this does require your state agency head to sign the form prior to being submitted to your SPO. Your SPO will appropriately route to the CPO for determination. Let's talk about the renewal notice of award. The notice of award form for competitive solicitations provides the award information and general information about all vendors that responded. A renewal notice of award is specific to the contract that is being renewed. You will need to provide the renewal term that is being entered into and the value of the renewal. The BEP and VBP section prompts you to enter information pursuant to the renewal term. Let's look a little closer at this section. When you are filling out the BEP subcontractor portion of the renewal notice of award, please make sure to select Enter on your keyboard after each entry. It will assure that the sub and their corresponding percentages lines up, just as you see demonstrated in this example. To make sure your agency stays in compliance with reviewing renewals at least 6 months in advance, we suggest using bid buy ad hoc reporting to run reports for expiring contracts. If you have not ran an ad hoc bid buy report before, we have resources that can assist you in this process. In our CPOGS Training Center, we have a section for bid buy for State of Illinois users. You can find all of our bid buy on-demand videos here. In addition to the video, we also have a job aid that you can utilize to run the report. Make sure to visit our CPOGS Training Center for more training opportunities. Our on-demand system trainings for bid buy are available on the CPOGS Training Center website 24/7. The weekly bid buy office hour sessions are every Wednesday at 9 a.m. This is a space for you to bring general bid buy questions and get assistance on system functions. The link to join is located on the CPOGS Training Center website. The bid buy registration form appropriately refers to CPO Notice 2025.04. Again, this is the diversity and inclusion in procurement training that you are required to take by January 31st. The CPOGS Procurement Training Academy offers 3 courses that are approved by UPPCC for contact hours. Registration is required. Please visit our training center for all upcoming training dates. The dates we have available through this month and these upcoming ones are going fast. So now let's go into our Tuesday takeaway. So our fast fact is that competitive art was once an Olympic sport. Medals were awarded in 5 categories: architecture, literature, music, painting, and sculpture. The final medals for the arts were awarded at the 1948 Olympics in London. The first art competitions were held at the 1912 Summer Olympics in Stockholm, Sweden. The competitions were championed by Pierre de Coubertin, the founder of the modern Olympic movement. He believed that art was an essential part of a well-rounded education. All submitted artwork had to be original and inspired by a sport-related theme. Walter Winans was an American gold medalist in sculpture for his work in American Trotter. He received the gold in the 1912 Olympics. He had previously won gold at the 1908 Olympics for running target double shot, which is actually a shooting competition. All right, thank you again for joining us for Training Tuesday. If you have any questions, you can email those to us at cpogs.training@illinois.gov. Thank you all.